And thank you, my colleagues, and thank you to the people of Guam for their patience. We're back from recess. The committee will continue down the budget bill 282-35. I'd like to restate the rules of engagement. Questions for the panel, if we have any panel members. Um, we'll have 2 rounds, and I will recognize you to begin your line of questions. There's a 5-minute time limit for questions per senator per round. I ask that my colleagues that amendment must be submitted via email to the committee before the amendment is discussed, and everybody's been taking care of that. There's not a problem that one. Senators, my colleagues, when you wish to increase an appropriation to an agency or department, you must identify the funding source and then provide the explanation on the impacts to both the receiving agency and or the defunded agency. When amending a section to appropriate money, you must simultaneously de-appropriate from the funding source when we are on that chapter. So if you're identifying a source to de-appropriate, that motion must be made when we get to that chapter. The amendment to de-appropriate from one source and appropriate to another source happens in one motion. So that amendment must be done one time, all as one document. If you want an increase in amount in one section, but we have not discussed the chapter of the funding source, then request to bookmark. Like we did, we bookmark charter school until we get to public health. All right. If there's no debate or offering of amendments should be made at that time. When we're on the chapter of the funding source, then offer amendment to de-appropriate and simultaneously appropriate the funds to the section that you bookmark. Okay, so that there won't be a problem there. We'll try to. My staff will keep a note and a tally of what's bookmarked so that we will remind you if need be. All right. Committee folks, colleagues, should you vote on whether to allow to request a bookmark, we'll vote a roll call. If I'll be watching out if there are no objections to the bookmark. I will watch out for any waving of hand or anything on the chat that will tell me we have to do it, and there's no objection. We won't need a roll call. We'll just move on, and I will announce that that page is bookmarked. All right. Hopefully there's no objection. And if there is one, then we'll do a roll call. Okay. Now, I only need to go no longer if there's no questions or comments on whatever's brought up for discussion. I would ask, are there any of my colleagues would like to discuss anything on this chapter or this amendment? If there's nothing, then we'll just move on and we don't have to do the roll call. Okay. I think Senator Therese, ma'am. Oh, yeah, unmute, please.
Are you asking for this chapter right now, or?
Well, we're gonna go to this chapter now, but we're still on chapter 2. Okay. We're still on charter school, and if I'm correct, you do have an amendment, ma'am, that you wanted a proper. Am I correct? You do have an amendment. I think it's on page 10 of line 10 of page 17. It has to do with.
If we could start with the one that's titled, on the title it says page 18.
Okay,
so
page 8.
Line 9, page 18. But on the amendment form, I realized the page number's incorrect. It should say, page 18. So this is to add a new section, Mr. Chair. If I could go on with this one.
Oh, please, is that the one, the restriction on the use of general fund appropriations for stipends, or does that? No, that's not one.
No, mine is to add a new section. You can hear me, right? Okay, so it's to add a new section. Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. All right, that would just allow carryover of any FY20 lapses for the charter school fund from fiscal year 20 to 21. In earlier discussion, they had OFB had mentioned that there may be lapses. We don't really know how concrete that is, and but if there is, then we would like to carry that over for use, and maybe, you know, if we're lucky, there's enough there for them for the council to allocate an additional amount for the the students.
All right, and if I'm correct, I think your amendment is specifically per each charter school. If you've got a lapse in your area, you would get to be able to carry over. Am I correct?
No, because they're supposed to be getting funds only based on enrollment. So what I'm saying is if they did not meet their cap on enrollment, then that money, my understanding is it should have remained with the fund. And so if it's still in the fund, then I want them to be able to utilize it for 21.
Okay, I guess we'll just go over your amendment, if you can introduce it, and then we can.
Sure. So it's to add a new section. It would read the unexpended balance of appropriations to the Guam Academy of Charter School Fund in fiscal year 2020 shall not revert to the general fund and shall be available until fully expended for the original purposes of said appropriations or as deemed necessary by the council. The council shall submit a report to the Speaker of the Legislature in Guahan regarding the expenditures of the appropriations contained herein no later than 30 days after the end of each quarter.
Okay, let me make sure I got that amendment. I'm looking at it now, and okay, that's for, is that the one online? Wait,
The line number on the floor amendment is incorrect, Mr. Speaker. It says line 15, page 36, but it should read line 9, page 18.
Page 18. Oh, okay. Then that's what. Okay, the unexpended balance of the unappropriation.
Right.
Okay. My colleagues, are you tracking on that one? The line page number was wrong. It should be line 9, page 18.
Yeah.
On that amendment. Does everybody have that? Does anyone would like to discuss this amendment? I'm looking out, and as I go down line, Senator Rigel, and then followed by Senator Tydegui. Right, Senator Rigel, sir, and then Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a problem with the idea behind this. I just want to, maybe we can ask either OFB or legal if this is just, I just want to make sure this is the correct type of language. Sometimes what we do is like continuing appropriation type amendment. So I'm just not sure if this is the correct type of language or if it should be done through a continuing appropriation type of language. So I'm just looking for feedback from someone on the language.
All right. I would just pause for if we can pause for a couple minutes. I'm calling our legal right now and see their input.
Hello?
Thank you, my colleagues and the people of Guam for your patience. Senator Therese, would you like to speak on your amendment, ma'am?
Sure, Mr. Chair, with legal's advice, I'm amending that amendment. So I'd like to withdraw the first one and just put another one in its place.
All right. Are there any objection to that withdrawal?
On the motion,
On
no,
that amendment?
no objection.
All right, that I don't see anyone objecting to that. So that being said, motion passes. It is withdrawn. Senator Therese, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so it's uploaded to the drive again. My apologies to my colleagues. So this is, it's again to add a new section to this chapter of the bill that would allow the unexpected balances, and I'm going to shortcut here, from fiscal year 2020 shall not revert to the general fund and shall be available until fully expended for use in fiscal year 2021 in accordance with section 3 of this chapter. That's the change right there. So it's a carryover. So whatever's left, if they didn't meet their cap on enrollment, hopefully there's some money left, and it will carry to FY21. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Senator Lee, you would like to discuss that? Yes, ma'am.
Just two quick questions, Mr. Chair. If we could have that revised amendment placed in the chat, that would be helpful. And then, are you going to go around, or just we're raising hands to discuss it?
It's just to speed up the process. I think you're the only one so far for discussion. And if nobody else wants to discuss it, we'll just skip the roll call unless we're going to go to vote.
So there was a question that was asked of OFB earlier on before we went to recess, and I believe that Mr. Guerrero had mentioned something about if a charter school doesn't enroll up to their cap, they this is what we're discussing, right? Money that's in excess. So it's my understanding that they only receive up to the number of students that are enrolled, not the cap amount. Is that correct?
Steve, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, Senator. I believe what I'm told is that the amount that is allotted and released to the charter schools is based on their enrollment. What I did mention also that is that based on the law, each charter school is appropriated X amount of dollars based on their total student projected cap. Now, whether or not that appropriation is given to the charter school, regardless of whether or not they meet their cap, that I cannot answer. The only thing I could say is that based on their cap, they are appropriated X amount of dollars.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. Maybe to the proffer of this amendment, is it our understanding that there is money that has been appropriated previously? Let's say, for example, charter school A, their cap is 200 students, but they only have 180 actually enrolled. So the money for those 20 students was still appropriated by us, but it still exists somewhere in cash? Because I just don't think that we should be doing this exercise if it doesn't actually exist, right? So is that our understanding, that there is money there?
I can't confirm that. Mr. Guerrero discussed that earlier, but that's the theory. That's the theory, is that if you look at our bill right now, Section 2 appropriation is an appropriation to the fund, and it's to the charter school fund. And so it's not supposed to be released from that fund for sure, unless they, accept based on enrollment. So in theory, there are excesses if they didn't meet the enrollment, but I don't know if that's true. That I can't confirm. Just, if there is, that's what we're trying to move it over for FY21.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. I'm looking out. If there's anyone else that would like to ask questions, I'm looking for if your hands wave. I have Madam Vice Speaker. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So does this allow for call for the amendment. Does this allow for continuing appropriation for the previous fiscal year?
I don't think it's exactly a continuing appropriation. My understanding is a continuing appropriation would mean you get to spend it for the exact same purposes. So these are monies that were not needed in FY20, and so they will be spent for a different purpose in FY21. In other words, redivided up among the schools to meet Section 3 of the bill.
So it's not going back to the immediate school, it's being divided amongst all the schools.
Well, as we just discussed, Mr. Guerrero, the theory was that these never got to schools unless they had that enrollment. So I'm not talking about money that they received based on enrollment. That's theirs. This is money that was never even transferred out of this fund to the schools because or allocated to the schools because they didn't meet the enrollment.
And that will be divvied up equally amongst the charter schools?
In FY21.
In FY21.
As needed. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I saw Senator Kelly's hand waved. Yes, ma'am?
So we consider that as a surplus?
No, it's not, Senator Pito. Senator Kelly, and I'll get back to you, Senator Pito. Senator Kelly?
I just want to make sure I'm reading the correct one because there have been a number of them, but I'm not seeing language about the dividing it up. Does there need to be language there? Would you say that the council shall have authority to appropriate as needed or distribute or allocate as needed? Because it just, you know, I like this amendment. If there is money there that they continue to use it in a time of need, that makes a lot of sense to me. But I just want to make sure that it actually has some direction. Yeah, so my question is, does it need to be authorized by the council to divide it up, or whether it just says that it's divided equally amongst all schools? Does it need some language like that?
So my language says in accordance with Section 3 of this chapter. So Section 3 dictates that they're going to get 6,100 or 6,000 per enrollee. So we're leaving it to Section 3 to dictate how all this money altogether will be allocated out.
I think, Senator Kelly, I think what it comes down to for the schools or the charter schools that didn't get, they didn't reach their enrollment, because if you look in Section 3, it refers to enrollment.
Right.
So let's hypothetically say that one school didn't reach their enrollment, and in 2021 they do reach their enrollment number, then they would get that additional money that they would have gotten if they'd had it. If it's like a lapse, it's similar to a lapse, but it's not technically a lapse. It's just keeping that money for what it was intended for.
So yeah, I just want to make sure, and like I said, I like the intent, that it makes a lot of sense to me. We just got to see this now, so I haven't looked up Chapter 3, but is the language there sufficient that if there's that gap between 6,000 and 6,150, that it's understood to fill that gap?
Not yet, Senator, unless my next amendment passes. So right now, we're just putting this money to be made available to the council. You're right, it's the council that's directed in Section 3. Actually, it's DOA. DOA allocates the money. So
Okay, so this is a two part amendment. It's got this amendment and then a follow-up amendment?
Yes.
Okay, that helps me.
Okay, Senator Pito, you had a question, sir. If you can just ask that question one more time to Senator Therese, that would work.
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if that is considered the unexpended funds. Is that considered lapses, or is it considered a surplus? And do we have to do a bill on what is being said regarding these lapses to award to the to whoever needs it? Do we have to do a bill on that one?
Well, I'm trying by this amendment to put it into this bill that it's only, we're talking about any, I guess, lapses from FY20 for the charter schools. If there are any, that they would move to FY21, and so that they would be able to be expended in FY21. And our goal, of course, is to increase the 6,000 per enrollee in section 3 to a higher amount. So we've got enough already for 6,000. In order to get higher, we're trying to see if there's any other lapses. And I think, yeah, so yes, you're right.
All right, Senator Pito.
I'm good with
Okay.
that, Joe.
All right, Senator Tello, I see you waving. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I need to put my hand closer to the, because I've been
No,
waving.
you're good. You're good.
I'm too far away over here. Maybe if I go like that. Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I thank the author of this amendment and support it. And in fact, I had an amendment to the amendment when she first brought her first amendment out. But since now that she has changed her amendment for the language, and instead of rewriting another amendment, because I already had that amendment standing by to the amendment, I would like to proffer an amendment to this new amendment. And it's very simple, Mr. Chair. I don't think we need to write it out or anything like that. It's very simple. And what I'd like to do is, if you read the amendment, it starts: the unexpected balance of appropriations to the Guam Academy of Charter School Fund in fiscal year, and this is where you incorporate 2019, comma, 2020, comma, and 2021 shall not revert to the general fund and shall be available fully expended for the use in fiscal year 2021. The reason why, Mr. Chair, I'm doing this is because there are lapses from 2019. And I know this because I've spoken with the Guahan Academy School, and there are some lapses there in 2019. Also 2020, like even Steve said earlier, there might be lapses all around, for 2020. So if in the event there's lapses for the Guam Academy Charter Schools, I think we should cover all our grounds here. And not only just 2020, but 2021 as well as 2019. So it's a simple amendment just to incorporate after fiscal year 2019, comma, then keep 2020, comma, and 2021. That's the amendment.
So you're adding 2021 when we haven't even started yet. Your intent really was 19 and 20, correct?
Right, and if there's any excess revenue in 2021, Mr. Chair, at the end of the year, I think they should be also be able to lapse that over or keep that excess revenue. But if you think that incorporating, no, this would be the time to allow any excess revenue or any excess funding or lapses in 2021. So it's threefold.
Okay, I understand that. The only question I would have is I'd ask Steve to comment, and I've got the vice speaker. The reason why I wanted Steve to comment is that I'm getting texts from some of the charter schools that what was intended for them to carry over from 2019 into 2020 was so they can pay their bills. And if they didn't get the money to pay their bills that they were why they the vice speaker introduced it back then was, then they still haven't paid the bills that they needed to pay for. And maybe the vice speaker can speak to that note, because I remember back then that when we passed that budget, it was to actually carry over, pay off their bills, and be done with it, and move on in 2020 and be kind of like a clean slate. But I don't know. Madam Vice, maybe you can speak before Steve speaks on that. Madam Vice Speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, colleagues, for your help and your concern also with education. I greatly appreciate it because it's such a huge agency and so many pieces that are involved. I appreciate the proffer of both amendments. Just to reiterate, in the previous question that I asked, the original sponsor of the amendment was, will this allow them a continuing appropriation? And the response, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and the response was, no, this is intended that if they don't meet their enrollment, that this would remain within the charter school fund. Is that correct? Yes, okay. So the challenge also that we are seeing is that when they do meet their enrollment, they're not spending all of the 6,000. Well, not that they're not spending, but they do have money on top of it to pay out for prior year obligations. What happened was in fiscal year 2019, some of the schools had prior year obligations to pay, but in the way that we tried to do the budget amendment last term was to ensure that they would be able to have this continuing appropriation. However, DOA's interpretation was not that. DOA's interpretation was you just get to pay off, you'll be able to pay off prior year obligations, period. So what they would do was they would allocate from their FY20 to pay off their FY19 obligations, which wasn't the intent of last year's bill. And so I think that if we also move forward to utilize these amendments to ensure that, because Senator Tello, you brought up FY19, and your concern is them being able to spend this money for what they needed for the students, that we need to also ensure that there's the continuing appropriation piece in it so that they're able to be reimbursed, because what DOA is doing, they're pulling from FY20 to pay FY19, when really they should be utilizing FY19 to pay FY19. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Senator Tello, I would ask Steve if you want to comment to that, Steve, and that's why I think you mentioned there may be some lapses because it's not moving for what it was intended based on the Budget Act of 2020.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Senator Nelson is absolutely correct. It's unfortunate that we are using current year appropriations to pay prior year obligations. I don't know why we're not using prior year obligations to pay prior year appropriations to pay prior year obligations. The only thing I can say is that maybe these billings are coming in awfully late. The only way you can, not the only way, but one way you can do to utilize prior year appropriations is if you had encumber the funds, and in anticipation that expenditures are coming up, that you're going to liquidate these expenditures with those funds. But we're already 1 year out of fiscal year 2019, and we're in 2020. And if they are still using 2019 monies to do that, for 2019 expenditures, I don't have a problem. But as Senator Nelson said, and I kind of confirmed it myself, they are using current year appropriations to pay for 2019 expenditures. So if that being the case, we're going to have the same problem when we're done with 2020, because we're going to have lapses or unexpended appropriations for 2020 because we're not using 2020 monies as intended. So it'll keep on building as we go down the line. Maybe 5 years from now, the unexpended balance could be $2 million if we continue on down this road. But I think the intent here was to, I believe on the amendments, was to utilize unexpended appropriations to help the department, to help the charter school pay for whatever costs they're incurring current costs and prior year. So I think that's what's happening now, judging from all the information we're getting. And as far as available balances, what we found out, at least in the system-wise, is both GAC and CFA have over $500,000 each of unexpended appropriations.
Wow.
So if you're going to provide the concept, or if the suggestion is the amendment or adding a new section is to allow them to use the carryover, then I think what would be prudent at this time is to kind of figure out what the carryover balances are, so we know exactly how much we're dealing with, and provide this to the charter school, because maybe the additional money that's being proposed in the 2021 budget may not be required at this point.
Okay, Madam Vice, oversight for charter schools.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to perhaps reinforce the issue and just some clarification, for one charter school, actually all these charter schools were actually requesting during FY 2019 fiscal year for FY 2019 money, but they were not getting paid that. And so that's the issue there also. So in one hand, one charter school was given $658,000 to pay for FY 2019 bills, but they didn't take it from FY 2019 appropriation. They took it from FY 2020 appropriation, and that was not the intent. And so really there's just the argue of semantics between DOA and how they interpret the Budget Act. So the two things that I think we're trying to do is one, capture if the charter school does not meet the enrollment requirements, capture that money and make sure it remains in the charter school fund. And then secondly is to ensure that if the charter schools still have some additional monies left over and they met the enrollment fund, that they would be able to continue to use this money and not being taken back. I mean, I don't know, maybe just to solve the issue is to release them from the BBMR allotment. But I don't want to do that because then we forgo this checks and balances situation.
Understood. Does anyone else, I and my colleagues, like to open for discussion on the amendment introduced by Senator Tello? Or hold on, Senator Tello, yes, ma'am, you want to speak to your amendment or
Yes,
withdraw or?
No, I'm not withdrawing. I think it's important.
Okay.
And based on the Vice Speaker's comments that she made, I think that we need to really follow through with this, because if they're not getting their funding when they're been appropriated that fiscal year, and using the next year over, there's an issue with that. No, I just want to make a slight change and withdraw only the 2021. I think we'll just stick with 2019 and 2020. I think it would be more conducive to this amendment. And then maybe later on in the miscellaneous provisions, someone can make that amendment in the miscellaneous provisions talking about 2021 excess revenue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak to that amendment, proffered by Senator Tello Tadigui? Or do we need a motion to remove the 21 she first put in and take it out? I don't see a need. We just strike the 21 out and it's 19 and 20. I mean, any of my colleagues would like that specifically noted. I'm looking, I see no other comments and no one would like to discuss it. That being said, Madam Speaker, I see you leaning forward. Did you want to make nothing? Okay. That being said, I guess we'll move to the vote of the amendment proffered by Senator Tadigui. There being no comments, all right. Joe, let's take the roll call. Let's move to the vote on that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment as amended by Senator Tadigui, Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Okay.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Lahi.
Again.
Senator Teresa Lahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Again.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitui.
Again.
Senator Taitui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment as amended received 15 aye votes.
Thank you, colleagues. Now back to the amendment as amended. Senator Therese, on your amendment as has been amended, is there anyone who would like to discuss? Otherwise, I'll ask Senator, I'm looking out for a wave of hand. If there's none, Senator Therese, can you go ahead and close that one? Because Senator Tello was okay on that one.
I think it's
Senator
close to the chair, so I don't think I need to explain it anymore. Thank you.
All right, being that I don't see any hands for discussion, Joe, let's do the roll call. Let's go to vote. Let's end this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Therese Terlahi as amended. Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chairman Rangel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rangel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munoz Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Therese Terlahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Terlahi, aye. Senator Pito Terlahi.
Again.
Senator Pito Terlahi, aye. Senator March Taitano.
Again.
Senator March Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moreland.
Aye.
Senator Moreland, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitugui.
Again.
Senator Taitugui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment as amendment received 15 aye votes.
Senator Joe, before we move forward, can I say something here?
Yes, sir, you may speak. The motion passed.
You know,
Okay.
it's my understanding that the charter school did get the PPP funds.
Yeah,
And
that's money from DOE.
So I thought that the charter school got some PPP funds from the feds.
No, Senator Pito, my understanding from DOE was that whatever PPP, you're talking about the PPE or you're talking PPP? There's two different things. Are we talking about for the pandemic or what?
I'm not sure if it's for the pandemic, but I'm hearing that they do receive several thousands of dollars for the PPP.
Oh, the PPP. You're talking about the what's normally given to businesses. Is
Well,
that
I
what
don't
you're
know.
referring to?
That's what I heard, that they got the PPP funds.
Okay, Steve, maybe you can reconfirm that somewhere and then get back to us on that one. We will need to confirm that. Is there anything else, Senator Pito?
No, Joe, I just want to raise that because, if
Yes.
they do get the funds, then what? Do we need to continue with this conversation of just distributing the lapses from 2019 or 2018? So if they do get or they get awarded from the PPP, then maybe that would help them, and not really just going back and forth on this one, paying the prior year's obligation and all that. So I just want to raise that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Senator Shelton, you wanted to bring something up, point of interest? Yes.
Oh, no, I just had a question, Mr. Chair. If we can get clarification from the Charter School Council, if it is the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, or if he's talking about the PPE.
Yeah, you're right, Amanda. Senator Shelton, you're right. It's for the payroll.
Okay, so can we get clarification from the Charter School Council on what was the amount that they received for the PPP and where that went to and how that affects their prior year obligations?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we still have Jesse on and Vanjie. They're coming on right now, and then we can ask them that question straight up. Okay, Vanjie, you're there and Jesse's connecting. Vanjie, are you on? Cepeda?
Yes, I am.
All right. Are you aware of any of the charter schools being awarded any PPP, the Pay Protection Plan?
Mr. Chair, can I verify that with Jesse on that? I don't want to.
All right, Jesse's here also. Maybe Jesse can comment to that.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. All schools, in fact, did receive Paycheck Protection Plan loans from SBA. All existing schools, that is. We're trying to get the schools to confirm at what amounts, but we know that those funds have helped to provide for the revenue in FY20 that was used to pay off prior year obligations. So if the latest action by this committee pulls through, I think that will help provide for any types of anticipated losses in the upcoming FY 2021.
All right, okay. Senator Shelton and Senator Pito, did that answer your questions?
For now, Joe.
All right, okay, and I see the Vice Speaker, the Oversight Chair. Did you want to pose a question to the two council members? Ma'am? Nothing at all. Okay. I think this pretty much closes the issue with charter school, but it's still bookmarked until we move on. Madam Vice Speaker, ma'am, and then we'll come back to Senator Reese. Madam Vice.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have an amendment also for section 4 of that same chapter for the charter schools, just so that we can ensure that it's aligned. We're just in the amendment, I'm uploading it now. It's just to specifically include 2019 and 2020 in the section 4.
Oh, okay. I can see where you're getting at. Just to do, instead of waiting until later on the budget, just put it in their budget. All right, and then that's getting uploaded right now, right, ma'am? All right.
I'm trying to find it right now.
Okay, and while that's being uploaded, Senator Reed, did you have something while we're waiting for that to be uploaded, ma'am?
Yes, I have another amendment, Mr. Chair. It's been uploaded. It's the amendment for page 17, section 3, line 10.
Okay, and that's the one with the amount, right? The 6,000
Yes,
instead of,
correct.
it's now to 650, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Madam Vice, has yours been uploaded yet? And I would like to address yours because yours is quite simple. It's even simpler than Senator Reese's. Do we have that, Joe Mason? Do we have that coming on board so we can take a look at it?
Yes, it's in. It's a simple one. I uploaded it into the Zoom chat box.
All right, and if everybody can just read along with it, and then why don't we entertain the Vice Speaker's amendment, and then we can move on. All right, folks, we'll be on page 18, and it's actually line 3 and 4. All right, Madam Vice, you want to go ahead and read off your amendment, and then as is coming on board with everybody else, everyone else can see that.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It just states that we're adding in the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 to that section. So all fiscal year 2019, 2020, 2021 funds appropriated to the Guam Academy Charter School may be used to support
prior year obligations.
Yes, it's a typo. It's supposed to say Guahan Academy Charter School.
Okay.
So it involves all the charter schools.
All right.
Right? Guam Academy Charter School.
Does anyone would like to discuss that? And as I see one hand wave, Senator Lee, ma'am.
So maybe we can just amend that language to allow either if you want to make that change or to allow legal to make technical correction.
Well, the previous amendment was a little bit different than this one. And so we just want to make sure that this one is very clear, that also in line with the previous amendment that we're moving it also for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. And the original amendment or the original section states 2021. So we're just adding in the year 2019 and 2020.
Right, and it's, you said that there was you wanted to make a change, or you wanted to emphasize that it's Guam Academy Charter School.
Right, so it should say Guam Academy Charter Schools. I was right the first time, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking out for hands. Anyone would like to discuss that amendment as proffered by the Vice Speaker? Looking across the board, I see Senator Tello on the right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're in discussion of the amendment. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair. And as I'm looking at the amendment, and when you were talking about Guam Charter, Guam Academy Charter Schools, right? S at the end of schools. Okay. That's all. I just want to make sure there's an S at the end of schools.
All right. Okay. We'll make that typo correction upgrade. Okay. Looking again, if there's any hands waved. So I know, and I've got Senator Therese Terlai on discussion on the amendment. Ma'am?
Can you just confirm the amendment is the one that's posted here? Because I don't see the word schools, or what you guys are talking about right now. What is it, the one that's posted here on our chat? You're just adding the words 2019 and 2020.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. No objection.
And then Senator Tiedegree mentioned to add in the S so it makes sure it's in a line, it's plural, Guam Academy Charter Schools.
All right.
So it goes for all charter schools.
Okay. Do we? Yeah, the fund.
Okay. Throughout the bill, it's singular, but that's fine. I don't have any objection. Mr. Chair, can I just ask OFB if they could just tell us what impact does this have?
OFB Steve Guerrero, could you please comment?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for the title. But are we talking about, Senator, are you referring to the balances, or you are referring to what impact the carryover will have?
Well, I'm asking about this new Section 4 amendment that would take FY 19 and 20 appropriations to pay prior years. Is this, do you see any issue with that? I don't see any, but I just want to make sure.
When you say appropriation, I think you're referring to the unexpended balances, right? Not appropriations, the unexpended balances available at the end of fiscal year 19 and 20. Whatever those balances are, of course, they've definitely helped the charter school in FY 2021 to augment their requirements to cover program operations. I do believe that the amounts are substantial, but you know, it will definitely help them in 2021.
All right.
Is this a different amount, Mr. Guerrero, than what we talked about with my amendment? Or are these the same? It should be different, right? These are unexpended balances. We're only going to pay prior year obligations of individual schools that are allowed to pay that type of obligation within their own budgets, correct?
If my understanding of the amendment, Senator, is to allow the unexpended carryover balances due to these schools in 2019 and 2020, then yes, you are correct.
Okay, no objection, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm looking out now. Is there any other hand that would like to discuss the amendment by the Vice Speaker? I don't see any hands. I give it one more second. There being none, we will move to vote on that amendment. Joe yes,
Mr. Chairman, can I just make one clarification, because I'm looking at the Section 4. It does start out with all fiscal year 2021's appropriated. So if you're amending Section 4, then of course the 2021 funds appropriated may not be appropriate for the intent of the amendment. Because for 19 and 20, you're only referring to as the unexpended balance. Rather in 2021, you're talking about all funds appropriated. So you need to make a distinction between 2019, 2020, and 21. Because in 21, you're referring to all appropriations. In 19 and 20, I think you're only referring to the unexpended balance.
Oh, okay, okay, I understand that. Maybe, Madam Vice, maybe you might want to change your amendment to be specific to identify the unexpended funds so they can carry over to pay their prior year obligations, ma'am.
Okay, let me just review it, Mr. Chair, perhaps. I can bookmark it so I don't slow us down, and then we can go to TMT. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues.
Yes. All right. Why don't we move to Senator Therese? We'll go to entertain yours, and we'll pause on Senator Madam Vice Speaker's amendment. Senator Therese, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, yes. So my amendment again is to page 17 this time, line 10. It's been uploaded to the drive. So this is where our current bill makes an allotment of $6,000 per enrollee. This will add $150 per enrollee for a total of $6,150 per enrollee if there are carryover amounts available. So So the language is where it says $6,000 per enrollee and my amendment is adding the words and $150 per enrollee from carryover amount from fiscal year 2020 appropriations. Now, this should now read from fiscal year 2019 and 2020 to make it consistent with the earlier amendment by Senator Taitigui. And I just, I would like to also say, could I say up to 150, just in case, because we only want to deal with the money that's actually available, and we don't want to commit what's not available, Mr. Chair.
All right, so your amendment will read, and that will actually start on line 15, where it starts out with per enrollee and up to 150 per enrollee.
Correct.
Correct? That's all you wanted to read.
And from fiscal year 2019 and 2020.
All right. My colleagues, do you see that? And maybe we can get the updated amendment so that nobody will question it later that we didn't add it on, please. Senator Therese. Does anybody want to discuss that? Senator Tello, your hand's the only one I see waving. Yes, ma'am.
It works to do it right in front of the camera. Anyways, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. And I'd like to thank the author of this amendment. I greatly appreciate it, to find any way to make the charter schools whole. But then again, we don't know if the money is there. I know that there is some lapses in 2019, but where the governor is putting it, we don't know. Will the charter schools be able to get it? We don't know. But at least this is a start. This is a beginning to at least ensure some kind of recovery for them. And I stand in full support of this. And the amendment, I thank you, Senator Therese Terlahi, for incorporating 2019 in there to make it consistent and give them more of an opportunity to go back further. So I stand in full support of this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tello. I'm looking if there's anyone else who'd like to speak to this amendment. And we're just waiting for the update. Senator Sabina Paris, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate the problem-solving skills of the proffer of these amendments, and considering that there's other ways to address shortfalls, I think, and I think also it provides more accountability and transparency in how funds are being expended. So I do appreciate the amendments.
All right, thank you, Senator Paris. Anyone else? I'm looking for any hand wave or on the right on our chat. Amendment is missing the word fund from the original bill. I'm looking at this. we just have to wait for the update. Senator Reese, I know you work on that one, so we make sure it's clean and everybody, it'll be read out loud, and then we'll know exactly what we're voting on. And also for Madam Vice Speaker, if we can get that update, and then we can make that flow, because that's a great amendment to add on. And it probably won't be on section 4, or maybe part of section 4, but it's to allow the unexpended 2019 and 2020 versus the section 4 that talks about the appropriation. And if my colleagues want, while we're waiting for all the update, because I think this would wrap up the charter school. Is there any other amendment out there? I haven't seen anything on the chat or on my phone or anything. So that, while we're waiting for the 2 amendments to come in, and we just take a quick recess for about 5 minutes and allow everything to upload, and then we can go to vote. All right? Thank you. We'll just take a recess for about 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, thank you, my colleagues. We are back live. Thank you to the people of Guam for their patience. We will go back now to Senator, Madam Vice, your amendment is now uploaded, and then we'll be able to proceed to Senator Teresa's amendment. And then I would like to brief everybody, the people of Guam and my colleagues, of exactly what other information we also found out as we were offline. All right, Madam Vice Speaker, I'm looking for you again. Oh, there you go. We lost the visual, but not a problem. Ma'am, there you
No,
go.
I believe we were going to vote on the Terlahi amendment, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. We're waiting for yours. We're back to Senator Teresa's amendment. Has everybody taken a look at the amendment? Is there anyone, wave me down now if you want to speak on her amendment? I see none. So there's no discussion. Senator Amanda, before I
Sorry.
ask Senator Teresa to close.
This, can I just take a beat? Because I was trying to figure out, are we on Senator Talina or Senator Teresa's amendment? And I do want to bring up the discussion we were having offline.
All right. Okay. So you want us to discuss what we were discussing offline?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I appreciate this amendment very much to allow for every student in the charter schools to receive that extra $150 and to make them whole. However, if we are going to see more than the sum needed, the $200,000 to reach all of these students, all 1,700 of these students, I think it's necessary for us to make a determination here in the budget bill for what we will do for monies beyond the $200,000. And so if we're going to explicitly say it's for prior year obligations, or if we're going to allow for each of these schools to up their enrollment caps, I think that's just a discussion for us to have now. Of course, I want to see all of the prior year obligations paid down, all of these vendors paid, but if there is maybe perhaps more there, if we can also discuss in this same amendment the enrollment caps to be done all at once. So if Steve can just advise us on the amount of prior year obligations that are still due, and and how much is going to the extra $150 per student. Because I know the Charter School Council here earlier in the discussion did share with us that if they could have both, of course, they'd like both, to see their enrollment numbers up as well as the $150 per pupil. And if that's something we're able to do here and meet all of the other financial obligations, Steve, please let us know.
All right. Senator Teresa, you wanted to comment before I go to Steve, and I'm going to make a statement before Steve
I would
starts.
just like to proceed with my amendment first, and if they think there's additional money after that, then that's a totally different concept. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Separately.
All right. Does anyone would like to speak on the amendment of Senator Teresa? I'm looking. I see Senator Clint Rigel, sir.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, which amendment is this now? Senator Teresa, could someone at least reread part of the amendment so I make sure I know what amendment?
I will read it. So I'm adding, after the $6,000 per enrollee, I'm adding the following: and up to $150 per enrollee from carryover amounts from the unexpended balance of the Guam Charter School Fund from fiscal year 2019 and 2020 appropriations.
All right. Looking for any hands. I don't see anyone else waving. That being said, there's no need for discussion. We would move to the vote. Senator Teresa, if you can close that, please, and then we can close it.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this enough. It's
yes,
of course, trying to get, if these funds exist, to get it to this purpose that we've discussed all morning, and that's to increase per enrollee the charter schools under the current caps. I'd like to add Senator Taitigui as co-sponsor, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That being stated, moving along, Joe, let's call the roll call for a vote. Let's move on the Senator Teresa Terlai's amendment. And if you can just read out the amendment one time, and then we vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment reads on page 15, starting on line 15 rather, of page 17, 6,000 per enrollee and up to $150 per enrollee from carryover amounts from the unexpended balance from the charter school fund from fiscal year 2019 and 2020 appropriations.
All right.
On the vote, Chairman.
Right. Aye.
Chairman St. Augustine, aye. Vice Chairman Rigel.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rigel, aye. Vice Chairman Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munoz Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Therese Talahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Talahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Okay.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Senator Will.
We seem to me we may have lost him, sir. And
All right, why don't we just go ahead and then we'll see if we can get him back on before we end the vote.
yes,
There he
thank
is.
you.
Senator Castro, if you can vote, please. Senator Castro, we're waiting for your vote.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. Ungen.
Senator Castro, aye. Thank you. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munoz.
Again.
Senator Munoz, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. And Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment by Senator Therese Terlahi has 15 ayes.
Thank you, colleagues. I would like to also, and thank you, Centuries, and my colleagues, the motion passes. The amendment will be engrossed into the bill. I'd like to, before we move on to Madam Vice Speaker's amendment, I'd like to inform everyone and to the people of Guam that it was revealed when we were offline that we found out that there was also additional funds that can make, not only does this amendment make the charter school whole at 6150, but also may have some room to increase that, what Senator Amanda had brought up earlier. And if Steve would please advise us of what is the funding available if we made them whole at 6150, which is 267,000. And if you can please just state exactly what's sitting in the fund, and that everybody understands that, number one, that on section 3 of the charter school, based on your enrollees is when you'll get funding. And how much money has been sitting, because if you didn't reach the enrollment amount, this may assist the charter schools to be restored, such as CFA, and to increase the other 2 schools to a reasonable number. Steve, if you can please tell us how much money is that our funds are unexpended at this point, because it'll make everybody whole in charter school.
Okay, right now, sir, based on the information received off the system, it says that DAC has an unexpended balance of about 658,000. You take that amount, you subtract the 267 plus amount that Senator Taitagui is proffering on her bill, leaves a balance of about $390,508. We also have on the CFA a total amount of $712,000 that have yet to be remitted to the Guam Academy. So that in amount, that totals roughly about $1.37 million.
Understood, Steve, but we need to also recognize that I did receive a text that Guam Academy never got the funding for 2019 to pay off their prior years. So I don't want to conflict with that. So until that's settled, I mean, that was one of the amendments in 2020 budget. So just looking at the folks, the charter school that didn't meet their enrollment, which would be the 712. If you minus the 700 on the 712,000, if you minus the 200 and what was the amount? 297 or 267?
267, 750.
What would that
would-
amount be from 712?
That would be $447,466.
And how many students could we enroll if you divide that by the 6150?
Hang on. 447, 466, divided by 6150. Approximately 73 students.
All right, so my colleagues, keep that in mind because we're still bookmarking the chapter. And then if you have an amendment, we can come back to this chapter and discuss further how we're gonna distribute that possible 73 student population increase. Maybe 25 to CFA and then divided among the other two charter schools. All right, so my colleagues, we will now move, Madam Vice Speaker, we still have your amendment, ma'am. On
Thank
page
you,
18.
Mr. Chair. So if you pull up the amendment on page 18, it's to amend section 4, chapter 2. And the inclusion is 2019 and 2020 unexpended funds may be used to support the payment of prior obligations, period. And then all fiscal year 2021 funds appropriated to the Guam Academy Charter School may be used to support the payment of prior obligations. So we included the unexpended funds of 2019 and 2020 into section 4.
All right, we have one hand wave. I saw first, Madam Speaker, first you're waving. Was that in reference to this amendment or, ma'am?
I think a previous question, but I will check online, and if I still, if I can't get my answer, then I'll ask the question. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Waving, I did see Senator Tello and then Senator Kelly. And I also, I'm not too sure if Senator Peter wants to speak, but Senator Tello, do you have any comments to the amendment?
Yeah, just a clarification. Again, the S on schools, I just want to make sure it is for all schools. It says Guam Academy Charter Schools may be used to support, maybe I'm wrong on that, and I know that in the review here, it says on line 16, page 17, the Guam Academy Charter Schools Council shall receive, so I think S, after schools is important so that it's all schools. Just, yeah.
All right, just to make it plural. All right, I don't think we're gonna have, that's a technical.
Okay, that's all. That's
all. All right, thank you. Senator Kelly?
I'm just having trouble finding that particular amendment. When I go online, I see the older version of it, but I'm maybe others are seeing the newer version, the updated version.
It's on the chat.
It's on the Zoom chat, and it says TCN Amendment Charter School.
Okay, I've got
it was sent
that,
at 3:22 p.m.
Yeah.
Maybe you might need to refresh.
Well, I don't know how. I mean, I'd have to leave and then come back. But when I downloaded it, for some reason, it didn't open. Like it didn't download in a file format that I could open. Although, I just don't know why.
Okay.
Perhaps Senator Kelly, you can get someone in your staff to help you with some of the technical pieces.
Okay. Senator Kelly, would you like the Vice Speaker to read the amendment one more time so that you can follow along based on page 18 on the Budget Act? And then you can see it even if you don't see it there?
Yes, because the only version I see seems to be the old version. So somehow
and what was it? The comma on the 19 and 20, all she did was add the and.
Okay, so maybe I was looking for more than that somehow. Yeah, well, if it's just adding in the and, I can see it with the commas, and so just adding in the and, that's not a major issue.
All right, thank you. Madam Speaker, you waved your hand again. Ma'am, you had a question you wanted to ask?
I'm just having some confusion in reference to, maybe not the amendment, but I guess just for the prior year, prior years to the different charter schools and what's being carried over. And if there's any balances that are still due, like if I'm not mistaken, does GAC still have any prior year balances that are still owed?
That's
Maybe.
correct. Yes, ma'am, that was identified that Steve mentioned earlier. It was, I think if I'm correct, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, 658 prior year unexpended, and GAG is reporting that they never got the funds to pay their prior year obligations in 2020.
The amount that I noted for GAT of 658,000 is the unexpended balance. I believe what the speaker is referencing is obligations. I do not know what the amount of the obligations are.
If I'm not mistaken, the last time that it came to my attention, it may be around 1.3 million. And I think a couple of vendors were not paid. I'm just trying to regroup and ask for a verification on the amounts. Not that I don't have any intent to supporting the amount, but I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
All right, and maybe the chair of, all right, Madam Speaker, maybe the chair of the Guam Academy Schools Council can comment to that. It was identified, if you use the 658 and 700, it's about 1.3 million.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may say that what I've been informed was $658,000 was for 2019 that was obligated that we did not receive for the charter schools.
Okay. And was that to pay a prior year obligation?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be, from what I was informed, it was that DOA did not use the 658,000 for the last year prior obligations and took it out of this year's. So if I can get, that's what I've been informed, that it's 658,000 for 2019, Mr. Chair.
All right. Madam Speaker, and Steve will be able to back it up, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I was told that I may have come in really choppy. I just want to make sure, because does the GAX charter school have that obligation for a prior year to pay? Do they still have a balance to pay prior year obligations? Because from the last I was told, it was at 1.3. I'm sorry, my computer keeps saying my internet is unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Obligation.
Let's see, Vanjie, can you comment to that? Are you still there, Vanjie, or Jesse? Can you
Yes, I am.
comment to that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm here. Yes, I can confirm that it was 658,000 for 2019, and we still do. We still need that.
And that's basically for the prior year obligation that GAC had, right?
Correct.
All
Correct,
And
Mr.
to
Chair.
answer the speaker's response, yes, even after the 650,000, Guam Academy still has additional prior obligations beyond that amount to several vendors.
Well, that's something they should be managing. So
it's not enough.
What we found with the schools, Madam Speaker, is that they've made arrangements with some of those vendors. I'll give you an example with iLearn Academy. With the total amount that they owe for prior obligations, they've been able to negotiate that they would do this in monthly installments. So as soon as the money is dispersed to the school, then they can render those payments. And although it might span beyond the fiscal year, at least it's a structured payment schedule, which is not a heavy burden to the school. Guahan Academy, though, I think for those amounts, they're providing us that information as we speak to help clarify what's the total.
Mr. Chair, I think we may need a total because there may be, just looking from documents provided from my staff, that there may be differences of what was actually paid to GACS and what was taken out by DOA for the fiscal year 2020 budget. So I just want to make sure, is there any literally real cash in unexpended funds, resources from GACS? Because I may be hearing this differently.
All right, Steve, if you can comment to that so we can speed up the process. And we have the vice speaker that wants to come on also. Steve, can you comment to that?
Yes, again, Speaker, just to be clear, the 658,000 that I was referring to is the unexpended balance. What the total cost is of the outstanding obligations, I do not know. But I mean, we would like to know that to find out whether or not the amount of 1.6 million that you referenced are obligations that are truly need to be met, or they can be basically reviewed and find out whether or not these obligations still exist today. We want to be cautious because all the appropriation made to the charter school are not supposed to include any type of construction costs. So if any construction costs are part of those obligations, and those we need to revisit and make sure that those costs weren't those appropriations weren't used in that manner. As far as the amount that's available to CIFA, that's just an amount that's owed to them. I'm not to say at this point whether or not they still need it or what, but it's just amount that is due to CIFA, and it is part of the 1.4 million that I did mention earlier.
All right, okay. I'll stand by, folks. We have Madam Vice Speaker, show your hand first, and then Jesse waved, and then Senator Kelly. Madam Vice?
Yes, like we said before, and in the hearings that we were having with the charter schools almost every other month, and then upcoming to this budget session, we've had about 3 hearings with the charter schools trying to understand finances. Right now, they're in current litigation with some of the vendors that they owe. And then there's the $658,000 that they did not pay with FY19. So $658,000 is somewhere in DOA that should have been given to. And so remove these amendments to ensure that the charter schools get their money.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
All right, Madam Speaker, we have an understand. You came in broken up, but
I apologize, and thank you to the Oversight Chair, Vice Speaker, for giving that update. It's insightful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Senator Kelly, Jesse first before I go to Senator Kelly. Jesse, you want to comment?
Yes, just so that we can provide clear numbers. So last week, the Guahan Academy Charter School transmitted to the council memos to pay off $800,000 in prior year obligations, which is pending action by the council and DOA. If we remit the $800,000 and receive the $658,000 from prior year, that would leave a balance of just $630,000 remaining for Guahan Academy. We also got clarification from Island Academy, and their pending prior year obligation is $235,000. So I'm not sure if the body wished for me to provide the sum of those two amounts, but that would be what is intended to be paid off if the amendment passes.
Okay, hearing that means there'll be nothing left for the expansion of the number of students. Okay, but the schools be whole. Senator Kelly, you have anything you wanted to bring up? And then we're going to go to the Vice Speaker's amendment.
Well, and it may have been addressed by Jesse, but because we're saying that these unexpended funds are doing two different things, I didn't want them to be competing against each other or conflicting with each other. And so I was just wondering if we needed to prioritize one, or we needed to give the council, again, the authority over this so that they're taking everything into consideration. It sounds like both are going to be able to be met without conflicting with each other, but I guess maybe it's something I would ask of the proffer of the amendment, who is also the oversight, or Jesse. Does it sound like everything's going to be addressed, or do you see the need to give some authority to the council to make sure that they're there to just create order out of two general sets of ability to pay for two very different things?
Thank you, Senator. I think ultimately the numbers get really close to what is actually needed to pay off all prior obligations. But I think that the council would appreciate that safeguard. If in case it isn't met, then the council would have that opportunity through Chairperson Cepeda to make that determination of which is to be paid with the amount that is truly available.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Senator Kelly. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this, on the amendment? If not, I'm gonna speak before I ask the Vice Speaker to close her amendment. No one? I don't see anyone else that want to speak. The only thing I want to express and to the council, Senator Kelly, you wanted to speak on the same thing, ma'am?
Well, it just seems, and I wanted the Vice Speaker, who's the Oversight Chair, to weigh in if she doesn't mind. If the council is seeing that it would be helpful to have that authority, if she or I would just amend that to make sure that it's there. But she is more closely associated with what they're doing, so I wanted to hear from her before I suggested any language.
Okay, Madam Vice, would you like to speak on that, on her request?
I think that's what we're doing here, is to ensure that the charter schools are able to maintain their appropriation funding that we're giving them. I don't really understand the question, and as far as the conflicting, that's why we're doing these amendments with anything that we're amending. So if there's an amendment out there, then that's fine. Let's hear the amendment.
Okay, so I think I can write an amendment, just a super short one that just says, with both of these unexpended these requirements for the unexpended funds, that the council has the ability to just manage it to make sure everybody's being treated fairly, everything is addressed, and there's just some sort of order to it.
All right, thank you.
I'll just do that real quick.
All right, thank you. Senator Tello, you want to comment before I comment, and we have the Madam Vice Speaker close?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the good senator from Nimitz Hill making that comment, and I understand exactly what she says, that this is not like throw it up in the air and free for all, that it's structured. And I think I'm hoping that too on this amendment that she's thinking about doing, to make sure Vanjie and Jesse, that you work with the good senator on this amendment, because I want to make sure that one of your priorities, the first priorities, is to make whole from 6,000 to 6,150, and to make that whole first, and then go after everything else after that. Okay, I know we're in dire strait and dire times right now, and prior obligations is also a commitment that was previously made, but I think the whole intention of this was to make you whole again on 6,150. So thank you for that, Senator Marsh. Thanks.
All right, and thank you to my colleagues. I only have a few comments to make for the Charter School Council. I'm hoping that in the future, we're not going after for other charter schools that have unexpended funds to cover other schools' failure to manage what money they get, that they're entitled to. Okay, because that seems to be the problem, is that as we're growing in the number of charter schools and they become unexpended, because Section 3 is very specific. The number of students you enroll is what you're getting for what you're authorized. And unfortunately, CIFA has an unexpended of $700,000 but we're looking at, they're the one that's gonna bail out the folks that, I'm not gonna say they mismanaged, but it doesn't sound right. And I wanted to be able to make sure that everybody gets a piece of it and not just one. Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. So please manage it, council members. We'll be watching out for that. Madam Vice, if you want to close your amendment and we can go to vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I say like absorb the cost of all of the other schools that are able to operate well within what is required of them. I know that CIFA has done an exceptional job moving their programs forward and also expanding their schools. And so I hope that the council, if these charter schools cannot operate responsibly, that you revoke their charter. That's what should be done. If these guys are, if they're not using the taxpayer dollars correctly, then revoke their charter, rather than having other charter schools pay for the, I don't know, misappropriation of funding within their own, for the other schools. That just, it's not just. And so colleagues, I hope that that's just from my, I don't mean to be, disrespectful, Mr. Chair, but I just don't agree with that. And I, revoke the charter if they're not doing things responsibly. And I would support that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And colleagues, I hope you support this.
All right, thank you. Joe, do the roll call and let's move to vote on the amendment, please. And just read out the amendment so that we can cover all the bases.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment proffered by Vice Speaker Nelson will read, all fiscal year 2019, 2020 unexpended funds may be used to support the payment of prior year obligations, period. All fiscal year 2021 funds appropriated to the Guam Academy Charter Schools may be used to support the payment of prior year obligations.
Joe, it's got to read first 2019 and 2020. That's the correction. That was the only simple correction. Remove the comment, it says and.
My apologies, thank you.
And schools, S.
Schools,
and
yes.
to make the word schools plural.
Thank you.
All right, are we all in agreement with that amendment? Please call the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion, on the amendment, Chairman St. Augustine.
Aye.
Chairman St. Augustine, aye. Vice Chair Rijal.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rijal, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Ungan.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Ungan.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Lahi.
Again.
Senator Teresa Lahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Ungan.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
All right, thank you, my colleagues. Are we, I honestly believe we've settled the charter schools issues. Do we continue with the bookmark? We are still expecting bookmark. I guess we just stay with that. Could we vote on that? Senator Kelly, you have something before we go to page 19?
Right, so
Oh.
we discussed an amendment and I'm writing on it, but while we're writing that, we can move on because I think everybody's clear here. We can just move on and then when that amendment's written, we can just go through it real quickly.
How long is it going to take you to get that amendment, ma'am? and we can wait a few minutes and then we get that amendment so we can close the issue on charter school.
Okay, I think it should just be a few minutes because it should be just a sentence or two. So we'll work on
All
that
right.
if you'd rather have a recess.
Yes, yes, so that we can move on, because once we get to 19, I don't want us to be going backwards. All right, and we can just move forward and we'll start with VOG and we'll move on. All right, so let's take a few minutes recess and we wait for your amendment. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, my colleagues, and I'd like to thank the people of Guam for their patience. We are back on return from recess. We'll now address Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano's amendment to page 18, line 9. Ma'am?
Seduce Masi, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is for line 9, page 18, and it's to add in a new section. The amendment reads, the council shall be responsible for managing the unexpended balance of fiscal years 2019 and 2020 unexpended funds of the Guam Charter School Fund. The council shall prioritize expenditures in meeting the additional costs of $150 per student enrollee for fiscal year 2021 before expenditures is made on prior year obligations. So just to ensure that our intention of them being whole and everybody being able to count on a solid amount this year. And then, as has been mentioned, there's already negotiations going on for these prior year obligations. And so in discussion with the council, that can all be negotiated and balanced out after the priority of everybody knowing absolutely what they have for this year and it being secure for them so they can plan appropriately.
All right, thank you, Senator Kelly. Just a reminder, school needs to be plural, S, so that's an administrative correction that will be taken care of.
Mr. Chair,
Anyone?
let me just fix that once and for all. That, I think we're talking about the fund, right?
Right.
So the fund, yeah, the schools word is singular.
Yeah.
Okay, whichever. We just have it fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody would like to speak?
Oh.
Okay, I'm looking for hands. I see Senator Tello, you want to speak on this amendment?
Thank you,
We'll
Mr.
move
Chair.
along.
You're right about whenever there's fund after the word school, then it's not plural. So this is correct.
Okay.
It's when the funds. But anyways, Mr. Chair, I stand in full support of this amendment, and I thank Senator Marsh Taitano for including me as a co-sponsor on this amendment. I think that it's exactly what was concerning me as well, finding all these unexpected revenues, that were out there on how they're going to address this. And I have full confidence in Vanjie and Jesse Kinga as board members to ensure that, since they've been here all day, and I'd like to thank them too so much for being here today, Vanjie and Kokura, thank you so much. And appreciate all your hard work at the charter schools, and to ensure that those children, the charter school children, are made whole. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Senator Marsh, for a great amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this amendment? Moving along, I see the Vice Speaker and I see Therese. Vice Speaker, if you can go ahead and speak, and then I'll have Senator Therese speak after you.
Just to clarify to the sponsor of the amendment, so is this amendment saying that the county should direct the schools on what to spend the money on?
Well, it's saying that they're going to prioritize the allotments to make sure that it's the full 6,150. So in whatever traditional sense that they review those expenditures, those will be reviewed, and that they have the authority to manage in working with the schools on their prior year obligations. So I'm hoping that answered your question, but I can provide more detail if you're looking for something else.
Yes, because I'm concerned that in the way that this amendment is written, that it doesn't give the charter schools the authority to determine where they are spending this money and how it would be spent. that either if this is what it does or it's not what it does, then that would help a great deal.
So perhaps we could have Jesse or Vanjie talk about the processes that the framework that's
Well,
there.
this is your amendment.
Well, yes, but it's to work within their framework. And so if they could speak about their framework, this will help me adjust it if needed, or if their framework is set up that they don't micromanage, but they're there just to manage.
They don't micromanage. The council does not have the authority.
Yes, so that's very good. So I just like to hear a little bit of their framework. If there are monies like this coming in and it says that you're to manage it so that people can, not people, but the schools can be meeting their prior year obligations, do you see some language that should be in there that gives you the tools that you need to meet the intent that we've been talking about all along? Or do you feel the tools are there in the way that it's written?
Hi, hi, Senator Taitano. You know, I would say that Jesse would be the best in response to that because he was the previous chair. I've not had experience yet, just came on board 2 weeks ago as the chair, but I think he would have better response with regards to authorization or what would be feasible for the different charter schools and their needs with regards to funding or the council. I will say that the council, we're not in the micromanaging business. These are all professional people. They have board of trustees, and I will say that the board of trustees then work with the schools closely. Our job is to just ensure that the charter schools are in compliance with what the council was created for. And
right. To clarify
Jesse?
that, thank you, Chairperson Cepeda. So there were prior year public laws that have already established the process in which schools would request the prior year obligation. And this was further expounded at an oversight hearing called by the chairperson on education. So Senator Marsh's amendment is in line with that existing process in which the schools would need to request for these amounts to be paid out by the council, and the council would transmit thereafter to DOA to remit those payments.
Seduce Mahasi for that answer. I hope that addresses the Vice Speaker's question, and I thank her for asking that because we want to make sure that it lives up to the intention and doesn't somehow become something that doesn't.
Thank you, Senator Taitano, for that as well.
All right, Madam Vice Speaker, did that meet that answer your question, ma'am?
No, Mr. Chair, I think there's still a loophole in this, but I'll just reserve my comments. I may have an amendment to this.
All right, thank you. Senator Therese, you had your hand up before Senator Amanda. Hold on, Senator Therese, and then you, Senator Amanda. You be next immediately.
Yeah, I was just concerned that, there were great pains taken in the law to delineate the duties between the council and DOA, and I don't want to interrupt that. So I'm going to defer to the vice chair. Thank you. I mean, the vice speaker. Thank you.
All right, Senator Amanda.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to hear from the council if they anticipate any issues with this amendment and any previously encumbered expenses by the charter schools, and do you see a conflict with that?
Madam Chair, would you like me to respond to that?
Sure, yes, and then I will reply after you. Thank you.
Sure. So
go ahead.
I don't suspect that there would be a potential conflict of interest. I think the scope for this proposed amendment is really just for prior year obligation funds and how that's further distributed to the schools. So if we're paying off prior year obligations, those are amounts already identified by the school. So there wouldn't be an opportunity from the council's perspective to delineate any further away from that and pose, I guess, the suggested micromanagement conflict or capacity. I don't think that exists.
Okay, so there doesn't need to be a clarification in the amendment
No,
about funds already being utilized.
right, because it provides that the first priority will be for the $150 so that each per pupil within the respective schools is at $6,150. Thereafter, you're providing that the council will make that determination of which of the prioritization for the prior obligations, which I think is in line with a previous public law that was authored by a prior body.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Amanda, for that. I just wanted to say with regards to that too, is that, you know, we've stated this before, that the money that whatever is out there for the charter schools, when it comes before the council, they have board of trustees that work very closely with these people, and their job is to ensure that the schools are within compliance and that all the money that they're making for their charter schools is there. And the goal is not to have the government of Guam completely pay for everything. That's why it's a charter school. But whatever the government of Guam and the Guam legislature is willing to give to us, to work with us with regards to the charter schools to make this whole, I just need to state that, okay? Thank you. No micromanaging here.
All right. Madam Vice Speaker, Oversight Chair, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, for me, just really, I know that the council wants this authority, but unexpended funds is different. And if we utilize it, directing it to prioritize this $150, I think it's just this amendment is very confusing. And I think it'll confuse, not just us, but the board of trustees move forward. We went through painstakingly to separate the charter schools from DOE. It was difficult. It's difficult to get DOA to even write checks for the charter schools appropriations. And so, if the charter schools are not doing something that they shouldn't be doing, the board has the authority to revoke their charter. I just think that, because we're perhaps just looking at one school, that we're also going to unintentionally discipline the other schools as well, who are operating, at a peak. And so I cannot support this amendment at this time.
All right, thank you. Looking for hands up. Senator Tello, you spoke earlier, but go ahead and speak. Ma'am, you spoke already on this. Go ahead.
Thank you. Jesse, earlier you were explaining your role as the council and your duties and responsibilities. And earlier you said, can you explain again the role? I mean, how this amendment, you would be able to guide this amendment to the intent, which it was to ensure that 150,000 of any additional appropriation or unexpended balance goes first to that. And then after that, how the council would proceed forward with any other unexpended balance. Can you explain again your role again?
Sure, thank you, Senator. So I'm trying to pull up the public law right now. I do have the bill number, and this was attributed to Bill 106-35. And so any amounts that are needing the validation from the council have to be requested from the school to the council. The council will then meet to review the amounts that are provided and make a determination of which of those amounts to approve, and then forwards a letter to the Department of Administration for action after their action at the council level. So it provides a number of checks and balances and also compares against the intent of the public law and then what the school is intending to pay off. Senator Marsh's amendment as introduced wouldn't conflict with the already existing public law that was passed by this body. In fact, it would just be in line with what that practice is in place.
Okay, that's what I was hoping. That's what I thought you said. It would not conflict. This amendment would not conflict with already the duties. And there's Vanjie shaking her head too as well. This amendment will not conflict with what already what you do as a council. So it would be, like you said, in line. So thank you for that. Thank you, Jesse and Vanjie.
And, you know, I'm just trying to create a little bit of structure here. It just sounded like there are going to be a whole series of obligations, whether it's the 150 per student or these past year obligations. And it was just to provide a little bit of organization and structure, and if there needed to be any prioritization of them, so that, again, there's just that organization and structure to it. It's not to leave anybody out, it's to make sure that nobody gets left out, and that it goes forward in an orderly way, that making this year's fund whole so that everybody can plan for it, and then having some sort of plan about how they're going to address the prior year obligations. So
Senator
so that it happens in an orderly fashion. Yeah.
Senator Kelly, it sounds like you're doing a closing, and we haven't asked for you for a closing. We just want to make sure everybody will be able to speak first. So stand by there, Senator Kelly. Anyone else would like to speak before I speak, and then we'll ask her, Senator Kelly, to close? I see no hands. I'd like to just mention that, number one, the issue of the $150, that was set already in the amendment, so there's no issue there. In reference to what the Vice Speaker mentioned, it's in the law already of how it's managed. To add on an additional reemphasizing how the charter school is managing. Jesse, you mentioned, so did Vanjie. You already have it in law, so there's really no need for an amendment to add on a reminder of what your role is. So in line of what the Vice Speaker mentioned, and exactly what the council members mentioned, there's no need for a reemphasization of what your role is on the council. So I will support. I can't support this amendment. We don't need to reemphasize what's already exists in law. All right, Senator Kelly, if you want to close at this point, go ahead and close your amendment, please, and then we can move on to vote.
Yeah, before I started writing this amendment, I had started asking about that. If all of these obligations are coming in, how this is going to be sorted out. So if I could just ask to make sure, I mean, if it's there, that's great. Jesse and Vanjie, is everything in place so that while one amendment in the bill talks about the 6,150 and another amendment talks about prior year obligations, is all the structure you need already in place where it tells you what the priorities are, or it gives you all the structure that you need to handle all of those things?
We can attest that there are provisions scattered through different, but the intent of the amendment as offered would allow us an easy opportunity to just provide this singular action within the Budget Act, should this be passed, without having to go to separate public laws to substantiate what the council already does. So either way, I think there's arguments for both, and it just depends on the action by this body, but we would appreciate if it is included in this Budget Act so we wouldn't have to go doing some legal research whenever we're acting on any school's requests.
And I appreciate everybody's concern. We wanted to, as I said before, we want the intentions to be met, and we want to make sure that we're not maybe overreaching or reduplicating, but it sounds like a little bit of clarity here just makes it clear, and that organization and that ability to prioritize and just manage could be helpful. So I appreciate that. Is the chair still here? Oh, there.
Yeah, yes, I'm still here. Joel, Senator Kelly, please, let's do your closing and then let's move forward. All right, and we'll go to vote.
Yeah, so I mean, my closing is they are saying that it would be helpful. And we just want to make sure that everything is balanced out, that everything is addressed, that there's the structure that they would find helpful in place. And, you know, I'm for giving tools and making sure that our intentions are indeed met, that they don't find a stumbling block, that one comes in or another. It just, as was stated by the council itself. And I think everybody here has worked towards those goals. So I appreciate everybody's questions. I appreciate everybody's amendments all along. I think we've all worked really well to do very good things to, or for the Guam charter schools and have really helped address a lot of issues. So I just appreciate everybody's support, and I appreciate Senator Tello in working with me on the amendment as well.
All right, thank you, Senator Kelly. Joe, let's do the roll call. Just to let everybody know that I know that my vice chair, Senator Clinton, had to go take care of something. He should be back on, but we'll just move along. Thank you. Senator Joe, call the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Kelly Marsh Taitsunu and Senator Tello Taitagui. Chairman San Agustin.
Nay, no.
One moment, please. Senator Kelly, did you see the chat from Vice Speaker Nelson regarding additional language?
I think that we're already on the vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Let's just move along.
Well, if there needs to be clarity to unexpended funds.
Senator Kelly, we're ready on the motion to vote.
Mr. Chair, if we can, she wants to make a correction. I mean, can't we go back?
So
it does say that
you have
there's
to vote on that
technical
correction. We're already on the vote.
We're Senator Clint Rogel, so we have never voted without a colleague on this chat, and now you're moving, you're changing.
Yes, he asked me to go ahead and continue on. All right. If you want, we can take a recess and let's take a look at all of this. Then we're going to come back to vote. All right.
Thank you.
Let's take a short recess. Thank you.
The rules
Recess.
are clear.
And then we'll
Once
be
you're
back.
in process of voting, you have to continue.
All right. Okay. Then let's just continue. Then let's continue with the vote. But
and it does allow for technical corrections. So.
Sure. I mean, we've made amendments to certain things. We can make an amendment to this. This is important.
Yeah, not in the middle of the vote though. So we're currently in the middle of the vote. We can always go back and try to fix it on the back end.
Chairman. The only person that voted was the chairman, and he can.
Yeah, so we're in the middle. He's already voted, so we're in process of voting.
What I'm saying is,
and I can always have a motion to reconsider so that we can, if it's more than a technical correction, we can fix it all together.
Yes, we can. Okay, are we still live here?
Yes, I think.
Okay, we're still live. Let's folks, colleagues, let's just continue on the vote. We're in motion. Senator Kelly already addressed that she's going to ask to reconsider if there's some technical correction need to be made. Okay, so let's just continue on. Joe, let's continue on with the names, please, with the roll call.
For what, Mr. Chair? I'm not sure. Are we motioning? We voting to motion to reconsider? Or are we voting on the amendment?
Senator Tello, we are voting on the amendment, and then at the end of the vote, if it fails, then you can ask to reconsider. If it passes, then it's not an issue. All right.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Joe, please continue on. After me now is I already voted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so that I can repeat your vote was a nay.
That's correct.
Vice Chair Rogel.
Mr. Chair, on the motion to excuse members not present.
We have a second. Any objection to that motion?
No objection.
There's no objection. Okay, continue on.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shelton,
Pass.
Vice Chair Shelton, pass. Speaker Munya Barnes,
Pass.
Speaker Munya Barnes, pass. Senator Lee,
Ungan.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Therese Talahi,
Ahi.
Senator Therese Talahi, nay. Senator Pito Talahi,
Ungan.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Mars Taitano,
Ungan.
Senator Mars Taitano, aye. Senator Castro,
Ungen.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan,
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya,
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Senator Vice Speaker Nelson,
Aye.
Vice Speaker Nelson, nay. Senator Perez,
Ahi.
Senator Perez, nay. Senator Torres,
Ahi.
Senator Torres, nay. Senator Taitagui,
Ungan.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Vice Chair Shelton,
Ungan.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes,
Ungan.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Mr. Chair, you have 9 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 excused absence.
All right, my colleagues, that motion passed and it'll be engrossed into the bill. Do we have any further discussion now on the charter school? Any other amendments? Senator
Well,
Kelly.
I would just ask, Mr. Chair, if we think it's a technical correction, and I really appreciate the Vice Speaker for being so, so conscientious and really wanting to make sure it's not unclear. But if you could just have your staff verify with legal, if it's more than a technical correction, then we can ask to amend it, or have a motion to reconsider and amend it. But I believe it should just be a technical correction so that.
Are you asking for a recess so we can check with legal? And then we
Yes,
can move
please.
on? All right, folks, it's just about 5 o'clock right now. So why don't we take a recess and come back at 7 o'clock? And Vanji and Jesse, thank you for your time. And we'll take a recess and we'll also check with legal, Senator Kelly. All right, and we'll come back at 7 o'clock and continue on with the budget. Thank you for your time, Vanji and Jesse.
Thank you.
It won't be
Thank you,
needed
Senator.
further. All right, thank you.
Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Folks,